Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Chaitanya. You're watching Chai with Chaitanya. This is a place where I talk about books, movies, and fandom. And today I'm here talking about Equations by Shivani Sibal. And this was a copy that was sent in by HarperCollins India. So I thank them for this book. And let's just go and dive right into this review. Please note that this is a non-spoiler review like all my videos, and if you have not subscribed, then please go ahead and do that because it would help me immensely and I would really appreciate that. Speaking about Equations, I actually went ahead and asked HarperCollins to send me a copy for this for review, and I was very excited because one, look at the cover, it looks absolutely gorgeous, and second, it's blocked by a couple of my favorite authors slash people that I love to follow and just get inspired from. So one of them is of course Chitra Banerjee Deva Kurni, who is the author of The Palace of Illusion and The Forest of Enchantments. Both of these books are beautiful. If you have not read them, please go and do read them right now. Also by Sashi Tharoor. I don't always agree with on him with everything that he says, but of course his English and the way he talks and the way he presents his points is stunning. And of course, Shobha Day is a famous personality in India. So I felt that this book would be really interesting, which it kind of was in a lot of ways, but it also fell short on my expectations and kind of took a very different direction and tangent that I did not thought that it would go. So, going ahead and without wasting any further time, I would just briefly get into what this book is about. So, as the name suggests, it's equations and it's about equations in the Indian society. According to what is there on the blurb, it says that it's a story of two families and about two different boys who were, growing up in the same household. That is to say, Ahan Sikand and Rajesh Kumar, and Rajesh Kumar was the son of this person who works at the Sikand house. So there was of course a difference in the power and the class and social, cultural, and all of those dynamics between these two boys. And they started out as friends, and over the years they kind of grew apart, and you just get to see how, as the name suggests, equation divides the society. And that's to say that this book is a lot about these things, but to say and to pitch that it's only about these two boys is kind of a little misleading, because now that I've read this book, I realize that it's not really about the two boys while it is. And please allow me to expand on that. So I'm not going to go ahead and give you more about it because I would say that it's such a short book. If you want to read it, just go ahead and pick it up and read it in one go. It wouldn't really take you a lot of time. The first thing that I want to highlight, the first three things that I want to highlight are things that I really enjoyed as well as the things that I really hated on some level. And the first thing is the characters. I felt that this book had such interesting and diverse set of characters, which some of them I really started caring about. But the way in which they behaved or the way in which their story kind of progressed just did not make sense to me. And it did not make sense to me because, as I said, this book, it says it's about these two boys, but it spends very little time actually following these two boys around. It's as if you're reading from a very far away lens, and it just doesn't delve into the deeper aspect of it. There had to be more nuance, there had to be more layers, there had to be more things and more complexities in their relationship. I'm not saying that whatever is in here is absolutely simple and straightforward and boring, but because all of the things that are in there are so complex by nature, that whatever is done in here and in whatever pages feels very less and it feels very underdeveloped. I'm going too much into the other characters because it's going to take a lot of time, and I feel the same, pretty much the same way about all the other characters. So the second thing that I want to talk about is the writing. When I started reading this book, it was very simple and easy to get into, not only because of the fact that it's set in India, it's about Indian characters, it's by an Indian author, so there wasn't really a place of disassociation, in the sense that when I read something like, let's say, a Jewish representation, or let's say a Iranian representation or Christian representation or something of that sort. So that was not the case, and that is not the case why I felt it was so easy. But in general, the book is written in the style of writing is such that it's very easy to lose yourself into. It's very easy to consume this writing, read, and just flow through. You will not realize when the time is passing and how many pages you have read. So it's very, very well written in that sense. However, the reason why I kind of said that I hated the first 3 points that I also loved is because the writing here is so filled with expositionary narrative, in the sense that it's so much of telling and so less of showing, which I feel is such a shame, because anybody who's read decent amount of literature or art for that matter, specifically books and movies, knows that it's all about showing and less about telling. And this book, because it's written from the third person POV in the past, by very nature it becomes very factual, as if it reads like you're reading somebody's history, which it kind of is. You can argue, but at the same time it should have felt like a novel. And even the dialogues that are in here are extremely less. That is to say that if you added up all the dialogues that are in here, it would probably be less than 10%, if my maths is at all right. But just to say, it's very, very less. It's next to nothing. And whatever dialogues that are there, it just feels so, um, I don't know, I don't have the right word, but it just feels so mechanical, because it's like somebody's actually forcing you to say this, because the context of why that dialogue is being told is already laid out in before and after. So when that character is saying that dialogue, you're like, I already get that. Like, you don't really have to say this to actually make me understand. And I'm not sure if this is how Indian literary fiction is, because I don't really read Indian literary fiction very normally and very usually, as you might have seen from my booktube as well as my bookstagram choices of books that I post and talk about. And from whatever I've read, I don't think this is the way it should have been done. It should have been a lot more of showing, less of telling, lots of more dialogues, and less of just straight up paragraphs after paragraphs explaining and exposing different things. The thing that I really liked as well as disliked was the fact that I enjoyed the kind of things that it touched upon, like, let's say, the divide that is there in the society, or the difference that happened between the families, or why the why something happened and what led to it. I mean, I can't say without giving out spoilers, so I'm trying to be as ambiguous as I can. And I love the themes that it tried to touch and it tried to build upon. But having said that, I just felt that it tried to do too many things, and it kept meandering too much. Like, I felt that the plot of the book was all over the place, and I was just not able to figure out that what was the end goal of this story. Like, what was it trying to achieve? Like, what was the goal of this story? And that is one question that really haunted me after I finished this book. And I just was wondering, like, if the idea of this book was to give me a taste of life, which it can be by all means, because if you have seen my review for Malibu Rising, it's right up here, then you would know that I said in that review, which is very similar to this book. It's written in the third person past narrative and has also got family and dysfunctionality and lots of things which are also similar to this book. So you would know that I gave that a 5 on 5 stars, and I called it a piece of life and whatnot. And I could have actually said the same for this book as well, but it would be wrong to put this book in the same category as that, because the piece of life that this book is offering is so all over the place that I did not understand the point of this book. If the point of this book was only to show equations and the divide that exists in the society, then I don't think the book was really necessary, because I think that everybody by default really knows these things. Like, you don't really need to read this book just to understand the kind of equations that lives in the society. So in retrospect, I feel that this book was a major letdown in the terms of what it offered. It had some great characters, it had some great storylines, but it did not make use of any of those things. The writing was good, but also, flawed and just not up to the mark in certain places, in certain bits, as I explained. And if you are somebody who wants to go and check this book out for yourself, then please, by all means, do that. I always encourage people to have their own opinions. This is just my personal opinion. And I once again would like to thank HarperCollins for sending across a copy of this book. And that's pretty much it. If you happen to read this book and if you have an opinion of it, then please be sure to leave that down in the comment section below. I would love to know some different thoughts, like from people who really enjoyed this book, because as I said, for me, this was really average, in fact, below average. So, yeah. Until then, I hope all of you are doing great and keep reading. Bye.